The following is a conversation with Dr. Michael Hutchinson, neuromuscular dentist and inventor of the Power Plus mouthguard and NeuroGuard Plus. His work is reshaping our thinking about athlete safety and performance. It is moving us beyond outdated technology toward a safer, stronger future for athletes everywhere. This is Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast, and I'm your host, Sid Bansala. Thank you for tuning in, and let's dive in. Dr. Michael, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Hey, good to have you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Doctor, I'm excited to discuss your work and its impact on athlete safety and performance. So let's get started. Doctor, every journey has a spark. What was the initial moment or experience that made you shift focus from treating patients with the TMJ to developing athlete-focused innovations like NeuroGuard Plus?
It really came from treating TMJ. That stands for the temporal mandibular joint. I had no idea about this technology. I was just being a doctor, helping patients. There's a long backstory about TMJ that was very elusive, and the treatments were just trial and error. They weren't really anything definitive. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. There's nothing that we could do. And I was led to a different treatment started by a person named Jim Carlson, who was a pioneer in neuromuscular dentistry. And I started treating patients with that technique and taking a malady that was non-curable to something that you could cure, which was fantastic. And while I was doing that, people would report back that they not only eliminated their pain, but they felt stronger. They felt like they had more energy. And I really wanted to know what that was all about. And so I started testing it. I took a leap of faith. Here in Traverse City, there was a local celebrity, let's say. He was the police chief and the fire chief. And he also loved powerlifting, and he was 65 years old, and he got on the USA powerlifting team in that category and won a national championship. He lifted 398 pounds on the bench press.
Wow.
And he had an article in the paper about how he was going to go to Prague and represent the United States at the international competition, and he wanted to break the world record for a 65-year-old. And he was working really hard. He'd never lifted that much, and but he was really hoping to do that. And with what I knew about what I was doing, I had some sort of faith that I could give him his world record. And so I called him up cold and I said, I think I can get you the world record tonight. And he was excited, a little skeptical. He came right over. I made him a physiologic jaw positioning appliance and told him what to do. And long story short, he worked in his workout. He lifted 455 pounds, got scared because he thought he was going to get hurt, but he told me I could do more. I know I could do more. He went on to get up to 525 in the next 6 weeks before the competition and broke the world record and held it for 10 years. And I knew right then and there that I had discovered a true body mechanism that nobody had really known about, and started from there to test it and see if it was really a normal body function.
Yeah. I like that story. And I guess you faced so much skepticism when you started developing the Power Plus mouthguard.
Absolutely. All the experts came out, when I started promoting this and saying that it was all snake oil and it was not true, which is very interesting in many ways. One being there were some studies done even back as far as 1979 that showed improved performance. The Russians were noted for wearing a mouthpiece when they were powerlifting, and they were a force that could not be beat back in 60s, 70s. But nobody just recognized that there could be something to do with it. I think they were feeling like it was a gimmick. And so, I had an athletic trainer tell me point blank, mouth guards do not prevent concussions. And I told him, you're absolutely right, and you're absolutely wrong. Yeah, current mouth guards that you're using do not put your jaw in that position.
Yeah, and he told you that, doctor, based on what? Based on his experience or based on data and research?
No data, just based on tradition of what was believed out there. That was the common belief that mouth guards only protect your teeth. They don't do anything else.
Yeah.
But that's not true. If you just take a mouth guard and just warm it up and bite into it, yeah, it's not going to do anything but protect your teeth. And really, that's all that a common mouth guard was ever designed for by the American Dental Association back in 1950, is to keep you from banging your teeth together and fracturing and cracking and chipping your teeth. But if you do a technique that we do 2,500 times a day, and that's swallow, that puts your jaw in your physiologic jaw position, and that changes the whole game. That increases your strength by 16.8%, and it dissipates those concussive forces away from your brain and drops the concussion rate down to almost 0.2%.
Yeah, impressive.
So, yeah, a mouth guard done this way will do nothing. A mouth guard done the other way will do everything.
Yeah. And doctor, from clinical practice to being now at the forefront of sports safety tech, what has really surprised you most about your journey?
I think it was an eye opener. You discover something, or you get an idea, and you just know that it's really good and going to help. And then you hit wall after wall after wall after wall. You learn about human complacency, where people say, oh, this is a fantastic idea. Then they do nothing, right? So I started really the development back in 2003. So 21 years later, and hardly anybody knows about it. And there isn't a day that doesn't go by that I don't do something to try to bring awareness.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that when I was young and foolish. I thought all I'd have to do is say, hey, look what I found out, and everybody would want it.
Yeah.
I found out that no, you're changing a historical tradition.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Galileo said the earth revolved around the sun, and the Pope put him in jail.
Yeah.
And he died there because he wouldn't relent what he knew was true.
Yeah.
And everybody else believed what was not true. And so that's an inspiring story for me to not quit, because this is a true body principle. And if you want your kids to be safe, you should do this. Otherwise, you have a 20% chance of getting a concussion. If you play 5 years, you're going to get a concussion in your sport, because that's the figure that's been for 60 years.
Yeah. During our early chat, you explained the importance of the jaws. And just for our listeners, Dr. Michael, can you break down the science behind the NeuroGuard Plus? And why is the jaw positioning is so impactful for both brain and spine safety?
Well, it turns out, and we still have a lot of research as to the mechanism, but the jaw area seems to be a hub for our nervous system. So when it comes to strength, our brain sends out impulses to our muscle fibers to tell them what to do in any movement or action or any function or work that we do. And if there's a blockage, not all the muscle fibers get information to do anything. So there's a little roadblock of 16.8% that was shown in a study at Wayne State University, that those muscle fibers just don't do anything. They just sit there. We have the strength in our body. We just don't utilize it at 100%. So that's number one. You get a strength increase, balance, everything that goes into functioning as a human. You get open that channel and you get 100% function. So you can run faster, jump higher, you can hit the ball farther, you can stay longer. There was a study done way back in the 80s that showed marathoners' wall moved from 16 to 20 miles just by using what they called a Mora back then, which was an anecdotal appliance that was similar. They just didn't understand how it worked, but they just thought, well, hey, if the Russians are doing it, we'll do it. And they put a lower mouth guard in there, and the marathoners ran free till 20 miles, and they hit their wall and had to pass that. But I mean, that's because they were running at 100% capacity. And so the other factor with concussions is two things. Since you get a strength increase, your neck strength increases as well. And they're probably the most accepted explanation for reducing concussions in the world today is strengthening your neck. And so there's a lot of techniques, a lot of things that people use to try to get their neck stronger, which is a good thing. But an easy thing to do is just put your jaw in your non-blocking physiologic jaw position, and you'll get 17% more strength right away. And also, the temporomandibular joint is a joint that is a ball and a socket. And if you're biting down too far, in other words, your teeth are overlapping too much, we call that being overclosed. So it will roll your joint back so that it touches the back of the skull and becomes like an electric current when you get a blow or impact to the side of your head or your jaw, and carry it right up to the base of the skull where the brain sits right on top of it. And conversely, if you are open too much, it rolls up to touch the front, and you have the same action. So what you want to do in physiologic jaw position is you want it right in the center, equidistant from the skull. So when the impact comes in there, it can't jump across the gap and carry up with any force to your brain. And so it gets dissipated out into your body. And that's how we can have study after study with no concussions in this technique and in this body function.
Yeah, I have a 14-year-old son who's really active in sports. He does everything from skateboarding to beginner MMA and jiu-jitsu. Just last week, we were talking about mouthguards because he has a couple of them. And I mentioned you and your work. His first reaction was, okay, but how is Dr. Michael's innovation different from traditional mouthguards? So could you explain that in a way that even a teenager like him would understand?
So traditional mouthguards go on the top jaw. Can you guess why that was done back in 1950?
Maybe the focus was more to protect the front teeth.
Yeah, see, that came about because Notre Dame football players were breaking their teeth playing football, and Life magazine, which is the most popular magazine back in 40s and 50s, wonderful. I loved it when I was a kid. There was so many cool pictures, but that's the reason why they did it. And if you know anything about human anatomy, the optimal bite position is the upper teeth overlap the lower teeth. And so their thinking was, well, if there's an impact, that's the first, the upper jaw is the first one that's going to hit the wall. So we'll put it on the upper. And, you know, in some respects, it's kind of innovative thinking, but that is not a movable part of your skull. So that doesn't create any neurologic function. All it is just total anatomy. So the only way that you can get the benefits I described is it has to be on the lower teeth, not the upper teeth, because the lower jaw is the mobile part of the skull, and has an infinite number of positions. So that's the main key right there, is it must be on the lower jaw. And then it has to be set in your own personal physiologic jaw position, which is unique to every person. You can't just warm it up, put it in there, and bite down, because that's not your physiologic, uncontrollable, we call it autonomic nervous system position. And we only can get that by swallowing. So what you have to do is you have to warm it up and you have to put it on your lower teeth, and then you have to start swallowing. And that sets the plastic in your physiologic jaw position. So when it cools down, you're always in that position. And of course, if you have anything between your teeth, it's going to protect them from getting fractured or banging together. But you have to be in that physiologic jaw position to release your nerve information and to dissipate those forces away from the skull. So that is the main reason why you have it on the lower arch, and this is the whole crux of the matter. It's all about jaw position. Incidentally, when we were testing it, we found that oxygen intake was increased over an upper mouth guard. An upper mouth guard is obstructive. It blocks air. You can't talk because we talk off our palate, not our lower teeth. And that big hunk of piece of plastic in there makes it difficult to talk. That's why you see people taking them out all the time. And in sports that are not required to wear a mouth guard, they don't wear a mouth guard. Because in team sports especially, you have to talk. So oxygen intake increases by this technology, and again, strength and concussion prevention. So this is the reason why your son should throw away all his mouth guards and wear NeuroGuard Plus.
Let's see how we can order some directly from you to Sweden. But you explained earlier some challenges developing the mouth guards. Are there common misconceptions about mouth guards and concussions that you'd like really to clear up?
Yes, the main one is that mouth guards don't reduce concussions.
That's clear.
That's a myth. They do. If they're done the right way, we've shown through testing that it can almost eliminate concussions. And it doesn't have to be just American football or hockey. It can be any sport, soccer, rugby, drastically lowers concussions. Number two about mouth guards is that they prevent you from getting your teeth knocked out. That's not true. And my invention will not prevent a tooth from being, we call it avulsed or knocked out, because the amount of force it takes to remove a tooth, which I do every day in my practice, is a great amount of force. And so if you receive a blow like that to your dentition, no soft plastic will prevent that. And so if you say, well, okay, let's make it out of hard plastic, then we see that that force will accumulate and break part of your skull. So mouth guards do not prevent you from getting your tooth knocked out. Those are probably the two most common misconceptions about mouth guards. And I like to say that the most popular one in America is that pacifier mouth guard with the lip protector. But I think mainly it's used for just hype, or you can put designs on it. But I've been saying for 20 years that that's the worst mouth guard you could ever use, and it's because it opens you up too much, and you can't breathe with it. So again, opening you up puts your jaw and skull together, and increases the force to your brain. And so I'd like to get rid of that type of mouth guard if it was me.
Yeah, yeah. Doctor, can you share some feedback with actual athletes or teams that you are working with, or they are using your innovative solution, whose
Certainly.
performance and safety has been transformed through that?
Yeah. Probably my poster child would be a Kansas City Chief football player who went to college at Brigham Young University, and his wife was my brother's babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was going, he got invited to the Chiefs. He didn't get drafted. He got invited to the practice team, and my brother gave him this technology and said, "You should wear this," and he did, and he loved it, and he quickly moved from the practice team to starting on the team. He played for 8 years, 2 Super Bowls. He played free safety, which is probably the position that is most susceptible to concussions because they're running from 10 yards back and full speed into tackling. And he had never had a concussion in all of his years playing in the NFL. He said to me that he feels invincible with this technology. And he said that he had never played better than those 8 years wearing uh, NeuroGuard Plus. So that's probably the best. Then I knew the coach at University of Alabama, Birmingham, and he really liked the technology. So he put it on their teams for 6 years. And not only were there no concussions on the team for 6 years, which is unheard of, but also they had been out of the NCAA for a few years, and they got their team back in the NCAA, which is uh, really difficult to get a program up to a high level. And they immediately, after 1 year, they went to a bowl game and were at a bowl game for the 6 years, won their conference, were the best team in the conference after being out of football for several years. So I'm proud of that we were able to take a whole college Division I program and be concussion free and take them to the top of their conference. That's been a milestone in development of this technology. And then I guess overall, many teams over the 20 years I've worked with, over 7,000 high school, junior high athletes, college, with only 9 concussions in 7,000 athletes.
Wow.
That's 2.2%. So, I mean, this is a normal body mechanism, and there isn't a parent, coach, athlete that shouldn't be wearing this type of safety equipment. It's in their best interest. And many people know, actually 10,800 concussions a day in the United States.
Wow.
Every day for the last 60 years. It's just a travesty.
Yeah. Yeah.
That people are hurting their brains and they don't have to.
Yeah. And do you think the existing understandings of concussions among athletes, coaches, teams, and governing bodies as well is adequate or not really?
I don't, because the emphasis is treatment, not prevention.
Yeah.
I think we should put most of our emphasis on how do we stop it, as opposed to, well, let's just treat it if it happens. And that to me is counterintuitive. I mean, you don't drive a car knowing that you're gonna get in a bunch of crashes, and how do you rectify that?
Yeah.
You drive so that you don't get in an accident. And the problem is sports is so competitive that people, they, they don't really want to think about that. They just kind of think it's part of the sport. I'm going to take that risk. The benefits are much greater than
Done.
maybe a little concussion that I might have. Uh, and so I guess the most awareness and concern are every kid's mother is probably the most
Yeah.
concerned about, uh, the safety. Coaches, yeah, they want their kids to be safe, but it's all about winning.
Mm.
And every kid is, I want to be better than the other kid so I can play. And so those kinds of things are barriers against, uh, something that's actually going to make them play
Mm.
better and keep them in the game, if they just think about
Mm.
that. So I think that's the dichotomy of coaches, parents,
Yeah.
and athletes.
But recently, concussions are really a hot topic, not only where you are, it's worldwide, especially here in Europe. I think what many are missing, it's the understanding of the long-term risk. And in your position, doctor, how does your work aim to change that? Just for them to understand. You spoke perfectly about the prevention, than treating afterwards. So, how do you think, or what kind of effort or awareness should the teams, the parents, governing bodies, whoever is looking after the sports, they should do to basically emphasize that something has to happen in order to prevent the long-term consequence or risks?
Wow, that's a $64,000 question, because it's all awareness. And this topic of concussions is so elusive and difficult because, again, everybody seems to be naturally, if you have something that happens, an injury, you want to treat it and get back to normal, but we don't even know how to treat it uh, the best way. There's lots of techniques. It doesn't. There's no one technique to treat it, and we don't know how long they should be off, or if they should, or
Mm.
all these things that are elusive about this brain injury. And what are the long term effects? I read a study where it said that concussion is going to cost you $100,000 throughout your lifetime with the effects that a concussion has. And we know some of the famous cases where, the impact athletes had 7, 8, 10, 16 concussions and end up with CTE and
Mm.
uh, all effects of that. And so, um, I'm really trying to network up to the newly elected president, who is the commander in chief of the army and military, and they have 4 million concussions last year, and most of it was in training, of course.
Wow.
Um, and fighting you can understand, but just out there trying to learn how to be a good soldier, and you get concussions. These are things that every association needs to understand, and that's been my frustration because I'm the only one out there promoting this type of technology. I feel like Galileo, right? I mean, I discovered this, and to try to get
Mm.
the mindset changed is just so
Mm.
difficult.
But
But it's growing and growing and growing, and there's no real prevention out there except for just don't play,
mm.
which is a travesty. But also, people are just not going to do that. They want
Mm.
to play their sport, and they're going to take the risk. So, but the awareness is gaining, and that's why I'm on the show with you, because you have an audience who
Mhm.
has no idea about what we're talking about,
Absolutely
and
not. Yeah.
now they know,
Yeah.
and they should take action. Now that you know, you must put your child in his sport with a
Yeah.
physiologic jaw positioning
Yeah.
mouth guard. You must, or else you're going to suffer a concussion
Yeah.
eventually.
The past 2 years, I must say that concussions, it's becoming a hot topic. CTE, it's the awareness is growing because a lot of people they don't understand what's behind CTE. There is a lack of awareness there. Dr. Michael, what do you think is missing from the conversation?
If I could be so blunt, historical tradition belief. It's almost like a religion, right? You have this religion, and then somebody comes along and said, well, look at it this way. And no, we don't look at it that way. That's really the barrier. And frankly, nobody seems to be studying it except for what I've done. I haven't seen very many studies about physiologic jaw position, and we could talk more about that from a dental point of view, because that's outside the box as well when it comes to treating TMJ. The majority of people don't even know about it, and those that do are skeptical when if they would just look at the results, there's just no question that this is how the body works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's human nature. Skepticism gets big in these kinds of things.
But
something new.
But since you spent a huge amount of time to find a solution to a problem, and you did find a solution based on what you told us earlier, that athletes, teams have tried, they came back with the good feedback, they've seen a change beyond the myth of traditional mouthguard, but as well from the oxygen intake. Do you think maybe the next step, since your solution is proving that it's safe and probably it will improve performance, don't you think that the governing bodies should maybe put some kind of regulation in terms of using your solution?
Well, I think there's a lot to that. I've always thought that there's going to be a point in time where there's going to be lawsuits for not doing it. One of the things that I've come across is here in Michigan, I had an audience with the president of the Michigan High School Athletic Association, who loved my idea, believed in my idea, but he said that he could not promote it because that would be endorsing some product over another, and they can't do that, which was frustrating to me because they endorse a shoulder pad, they endorse a helmet. You can't go out on the football field and play football without a helmet. So you're endorsing a helmet, even though you're not endorsing a company's helmet, except for if you say this is the helmet that we recommend. They could do more like that, but there's this political thing where they can't endorse something, and so people suffer because they won't do that. Let
me give an example to help listeners understand what we're talking about when it comes to regulating a device or a piece of equipment in sports. Take motorsports, for instance, and helmets. There are thousands of helmet brands out there, but they all have to comply with FIA regulations. When the hands device head and neck support was first introduced, it was mandatory everywhere. It slowly became a requirement in Europe, while the US was a bit behind at first. Eventually, it became clear that the hands device, regardless of who manufactures it, provided significant safety benefits and reduced injuries. Over time, the FIA, the International Federation for Motorsports, homologated it to ensure consistency and safety standards. I believe a similar path could apply to your solution. You've already proven that it works, it's safe, it prevents X, Y, and Z, and it even enhances athletic performance. So the next logic step might be for it to become homologated, ensuring that no matter who produces it meets standardized safety and performance criteria.
I would love that, because it would really, bottom line, just protect everyone. It would just it would really change the game. And so I've been trying to do that with the government, the military, with the universities. And I think that because what I'm hoping for is that the barriers of anything else are out there so much that the concussion rate keeps climbing, that there's going to be a point in time where people say, okay, enough is enough. We have to do this until we can find another solution, which there may be more solutions out there that I don't know about, but 0.2% concussion rate is almost zero. So, I mean, Sid, it's just, we're fighting human nature, and it's frustrating, because even though people believe one thing and you actually prove it to them, their belief is wrong, they still believe it, and they still do it. And that's probably the overall number one barrier to anything that changes. But I can use an example, like when we were kids, when you answered the phone, you went to the wall or the desk and sat there and talked. And now who does that?
No one.
Nobody.
It's unheard of.
Wish. Yeah. And, Apple had a Super Bowl commercial that launched Apple. And that's the other barrier, is money. I've been trying to speak at large sports conventions, and they won't ask me to speak unless I pay them $10,000.
Here we go.
Which is like, okay, so you don't really care about the kids, you just care about your organization and how much money you can make. And that's a travesty. I'm certainly qualified to be an expert speaker, and in all reality, they should pay me to come and tell them how to play safer.
Have you tried to approach international governing bodies for various sports?
No, I haven't. Okay. I haven't. It's just me out there, telling everybody.
Okay.
So
let's talk about it.
Any opportunity, would love it. There's a couple of countries, India, I've been in negotiations with them, and Turkey. I had spoken with some people in the United Kingdom. It just sort of, for one reason or another, just kind of slow, getting through the bureaucracy.
I believe the best way forward would be to present your solution to the international governing bodies, whether for Olympic or non-Olympic sports. And as you explain, it's not just combat or contact sports that could benefit from your innovation. It has far-reaching applications across various disciplines. And these governing bodies often have safety committees and subcommittees dedicated to exploring new innovative solutions to enhance athlete safety and prevention. I think approaching them could be a crucial first step in gaining broader recognition and adoption for your work. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Michael?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Fantastic. It's been really insightful. So many information, we can talk for hours about that. I think now it's time for the lightning round. So if you're ready for a speedy Q&A, we can start.
Let's go.
Fantastic. Favorite sport to watch or play?
Golf. Golf play. Football watch.
Fantastic. Coffee or tea?
Neither.
Good. One piece of advice for young athletes.
Never quit. And be the last one off the field and the first one to practice.
Good. If not sports medicine, what would you be doing?
I'd be an entertainer. I would sing.
Good. Most influential person in your life?
My father. and Jesus Christ.
Good answer. A book or a documentary everyone should read or watch?
The Bible.
What's one tool you can't live without?
That would be a screwdriver.
Not a Swiss pocket knife?
I've had one.
What's your favorite success story from your work?
As a dentist, neuromuscular dentist, I had a patient who got in a car accident, and she broke her jaw, and she went to an oral surgeon with pain, and she ended up having 9 jaw surgeries.
Wow.
Which left her with excruciating TMJ pain. And when I met her, you could see on her face and her countenance that she was in a lot of pain. And I asked her, on a scale of 0 being how you think heaven is, and 10 being you want to put a gun to your head, and she said 9.5. And so I worked with her. She had no ball and socket. It was splinters. I had to send her for 2 more jaw surgeries to a person who had developed a artificial jaw joint. And I crowned all of her teeth in her physiologic jaw position. And when we were all done, I asked her the same question, and she said 2. And every time she came to visit, she brought me a blueberry pie. And so that's probably the most successful outcome that I've ever had. And I've done that type of thing hundreds and hundreds of times. But that one, where a person was facing that she couldn't take any more pain, and I was able to help her. I don't know where she is now, but I was able to help her live her life without pain.
What a fantastic story, Dr. Michael. If you could have a chance to have a dinner with a historical figure, who will it be and why?
Wow, that would be Abraham Lincoln.
Why?
Because he came from the most humble of backgrounds. He had such a intuitive sense of how to deal with people. He was a Republican, and he put together in his cabinet Democrats, Republicans, and people who didn't always see his way. But he was able to manage that and keep our country together when we were in a crisis, a very difficult crisis. And he was humble. He wasn't verbose. He had a huge connection with the average folk. And I think he would be somebody who would be really interesting to just sit and chat with, and hear stories and hear his jokes, and learn how and see how he dealt with adversity and success.
Yeah, yeah. There is so many books, so many stories about Abraham Lincoln, but I think one book that I found really interesting is Teams of Rivals. Yeah, not sure if you read that book.
No, I haven't read it, but yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
yeah, that's a good one. What's the worst career advice you ever gotten?
To not be a dentist. I went and I was at Iowa State University, an undergraduate, and the dean of science and humanities requested I come have a meeting with him, and he said that looking at all that I was doing, he didn't think I had the ability to become a dentist. And anybody who knows me, you just don't tell me I can't do something, because there's just something in me that says, well, I'm going to show you. And I thanked him. I said, thank you for your advice. I know that you don't know what you're talking about, but I appreciate your concern. And then when I got accepted to 3 dental schools, I sent him the acceptance letters and a little note saying, don't ever tell anybody to give up on their goals or their dreams, because there may be somebody who believes you and changes what they really want to do. And I think I've obviously shown you that I've received from you very bad advice. So don't do that to somebody else.
Your next big goal?
My next big goal is to get NeuroGuard in big box store like Dick's or sporting goods store. That's my next big goal.
And hopefully to be endorsed by the international governing bodies.
Yes, and then the third one is have a meeting with President Trump. He knows about it from his first term. It was just not the right time. So that's another goal.
Yeah.
And it's a good goal because I've got some connections, and I'm really confident it's going to happen.
I wish you all the best. Just do us a favor, send us a picture when it happens.
I will.
That was awesome, Dr. Michael. Thank you for playing along with the lightning round. It's always great to get those personal insights. This conversation has been incredible, and I feel like we could talk for hours. But before we wrap up, could you share where our listeners can find you, learn more about your work, or reach out if they want to explore what you do?
They can go to NeuroGuardPlus.com. So NeuroGuard Plus spelled out .com, and you can get all kinds of information. You can email me if you have questions. You can order one. It'll be sent right to you. And it comes within a few days.
Dr. Michael, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. And it's really fantastic that I can talk to someone all across the world. And I really appreciate it. And now I have a new friend. Thank you, Sid.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Michael, for an incredible, enlightening conversation. Your passion for athlete safety and innovation is inspiring, and I have no doubt your work will continue to transform lives. To all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you leave as inspired as we are. Before we go, I leave you with a few words from Steve Jobs. Innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not a threat. Thank you for tuning in to the Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to our show. Until next time, stay curious, resilient, and push the limit. Bye-bye.
Shows